Sorry for the 3 minutes delay, just technical issues, but we never give up, of course, and we just find a way to get there. So let me introduce to you Tracy Borreson, who is a personal branding coach. I'm very excited to discover more about Tracy and about that topic. So without further ado, Tracy, could you tell us a bit more about yourself, what it is exactly that you do, and also, who do you work with and what kind of problem do they have?
Yes, definitely. First of all, thank you, Madeline, for having me today. I'm really excited to share with you guys a little bit more about myself and about personal branding, more so about personal branding. I'm not that interesting. Personal branding is interesting. So I like to call myself a mompreneur. So I know we're on the Soulpreneur interview show. I really identify with the word mompreneur because I didn't have really any interest in being an entrepreneur until I became a mother. And then I realized that the time that I had invested in my corporate work was just not, I didn't want to do that anymore. I did not want to work 50, 60 hours a week. I wanted to hang out with my family, watch my son grow up. And I think it's really interesting for me because I really loved my job. I would have said lots of times that I loved my job. I felt great at work most of the time. And then once I had my son, it just made it very clear to me where my corporate career and myself were misaligned on a values level. I've always been very much a person who cares about people and showing up to do that, which I did get to do as a manager, but I always had to do it within the framework of someone else's business, which was constantly a struggle for me because how someone else wants to show up in their business is not how I would naturally do that. And I had a lot of trouble showing up in someone else's management structure. And as much as my boss tried to find a place for me that was going to work in the organization after I came back from maternity leave, it just wasn't going to work. So I started my own business. So my background is marketing, and I started my own business trying to just to get out of corporate, to be honest. And so I have all of these skills in marketing. I'll be a marketing strategist. Lots of people need marketing consultants. This will be fine. And what I realized is that I ended up doing a lot of the same things that I did in my corporate job. And I didn't like them in my corporate job. And I didn't like them when I was running my own business either. And so I was really lucky because I had a business coach, and she was very woo-woo. So the moons and the tides and all these things. And when I was coaching with her during our sessions, it was Mercury retrograde, which apparently means you're not supposed to make decisions about things, which I didn't know. So I was like, okay, I'm open to trying new things. So I'll just take 2 weeks in my business to look at what are the things that I'm really passionate about doing? What are the activities that I have the most fun doing? And then focus on building around those things instead of just having generic services, even though people need generic services, but I wasn't passionate about doing most of them. And so I took that time, and for me, it was the best investment in time that I ever could make in myself and my business, because I had never done that. I had never stepped back and said, what do I like? How do I want to show up and make a difference for people? And the part of the process that I loved the most was helping people understand the experience that they create in their business. And an experience is based on a feeling, and feelings are based on values and connection and all the human goodness that exists in humans that in business, a lot of times we don't think about it as a priority. We think about numbers, and we think about strategy, and we think about tactics, and we think about tasks, and we don't think about the experience, what it feels like to be around you. And even in my marketing campaigns that I would create, that was the thing that I always focused so highly on, was figuring out, how do you want these people to feel when they meet you, when they when they see a social media post, like, what do you want to create for them? How do you want them to feel? And so I was like, well, I'll just do that. And I'll network with a whole bunch of people who are really great service providers. And then if people need service providers, I have this great list of people that they can outsource to. They don't have to go looking. They know that they can trust them. But I don't have to do that because it's not the thing I love. It's not the thing that I'm best at. And so that's where the whole personal branding came to play. And one of the other things I know, my background is marketing. A lot of people waste a lot of money on marketing efforts, like paid advertising. Like, there's just a lot of money that gets wasted. And entrepreneurs, small business owners don't have that kind of money. And they don't need that kind of money. They just need to have the focus of what they're trying to create. What do you want it to feel like when people experience you? And create that. That's your job. That's your job to do every day, is create that feeling for people. How are you going to do that? Because Madeline's way of doing that, even if we were both going to say we want to create enthusiasm with our people every day, Tracy's way of doing that is different than Madeline's way of doing that, than other business owners' way of doing that, right? So, like, what's your way of doing that? That's what it's about, because that's your unique contribution. And I'm a firm believer that your business should be based on your unique contribution. That's what makes it most valuable for other people, and that's what makes it the most fun for you.
Wow, what a great story, Tracy. And I have to go back a bit because you told us a lot of things already. So I want to comment on some things that you said. You started by saying you were a mompreneur, and I'm one too. I mean, and it's funny because you talked about your, coming back from maternity leave, and for me, it was the same, as in coming back from maternity leave. It was for me the time to change job. And I also have to come back to what you said about, values being aligned or not aligned to your own when you work for corporate. And my own anecdote is that I came back from my first maternity leave, and I managed to make a change from change management to going to HR, which I thought was exactly what I wanted, because I'm such a people person, and I thought HR is where I have to be. That's where we deal with people, And then that was only to realize a few months later that actually HR was not what I thought it was, because I ended up doing lots of outsourcing and, still trying to preserve people's life and so on. But it was a lot more about the company than it was about the people. So I thought, well, actually, I thought that was it for me. But at the end of the day, it's not. So yes. And when we have our own business, we get to choose which values we put in them, because those values are our values. So we can only be aligned with them. So that's what's so great about it as well. So those are the first thing that I wanted to comment on about what you said. So, and also another thing that made me think as well is, you said we all have our unique way to do this, or to communicate enthusiasm and whatever that it is that we want to communicate, the feeling that we want to give to the people. And this is something that I have always found so difficult to define. How is my way different from somebody else's way? And in my first business, the one that failed and that I learned lessons from, but in my first business, I also had issues with that. And I hired somebody who was specialist in that, who interviewed me to try to extract the essence of what makes me special and different from my competitors. So is this part as well something that you do in your day-to-day collaboration work with the women you work with? Really looking, so you're looking at the feeling that you want to give to your clients, but are you also therefore looking at difference?
Yes. Well, I'm a big believer in that naturally we are all different. There's not something we need to try to be to have a competitive advantage or to have a client base or to have a successful business, that you can show up and do that exactly as you are with the skills you have, using the skills you have instead of using skills you don't have, and using the voice that you have. So it's funny. So I run a messaging mastermind, and we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, the concept of being profound, and how people often think in order to stand out, they need to be profound. And having a profound thought, I admit, it stands out. What people forget is that the reason why it's profound is because it's said in a way that no one has said it before. And the way that you do that is by using your own words. No one can use your words. You're the only person who can think your thoughts and say it in the way that makes sense to you. And I get this all the time. People are like, oh my gosh, yes, and I think it's the simplest thing ever, right? Because to me, it's simple. That's how I see the world, but that's not how other people see the world. And they can't possibly, because they're not me. They don't have the exact experience. They don't have the same eyes that are actually terrible and need like really strong glasses, right? Like they don't have that. That is my uniqueness, my ability to embrace the fact that I am unique is actually what can create a profound change in other people. So the work that I do is less on the interviewing side and turning it into messaging, more so than you believing. It's very much in a coaching capacity. You believing that there's something unique about you that you can harness in your business that is going to make it different than what everybody else is doing. And everybody, no matter what industry you're in, there's always someone else doing it. One of the best pieces of advice that I got from my last CEO that I worked for before I'm my own CEO, was that if you have no competition, you have no market. And I always really appreciated that, because if you have competition, exactly, that means there's people buying what you're selling, right? So like if there was no market for salt, then nobody would buy salt. But there is a market for salt, so lots of people manufacture salt, right? It's the same thing with coaching. It's the same thing with graphic design. It's the same thing with health and wellness. I teach a dance class too, right? Like same thing with dance classes, right? There's lots of dance classes. There's even lots of online dance classes now, right? The thing you do, the package, I guess, the package, or what you define it as, isn't the thing that makes you unique. It's also not the thing that makes people choose you. What makes people choose you is you being you, and not you trying to be me. There's no point in you trying to be me. You can't be me. It's not possible, right? So like all the effort you put into that is a waste of time. Not about wasting time and money. I am about people being themselves, and there's just not enough in our society, the way the education systems and everything are built. There's not enough conversation about what it looks like to be yourself. It's like you're going to go through high school and this is the curriculum and everybody gets the same thing and everybody gets graded on the same things. And if you have a learning disability, too bad. And if you have autism, too bad, right? Like you don't fit it. We've made a box and we're forcing you to fit into the box. And so many parts of our society are built that way. I went to business school. Business school is like the worst. They actually brainwash you into thinking that the best thing you can be in life is the VP at a big company and make all the money and have a fancy car and a big house, right? Like, I don't want that. I was a VP. I was a VP for a tech company and I was 35 and I was like, is this it? I accomplished everything I'm going to do in my life by the time I'm 35? No, I can't believe that. That's not okay for me. That's not good enough. And so it's just, society likes to fill us with all these things that we should be. And we have all this practice of trying to be a certain way. We don't have a practice of trying to be just who we are. And so like that is what I'm all about. That's what my coaching is all about. It's creating a space for people to realize who they really are, for people to find the skills in celebrating who they really are, and then using that to create a business that works for you, because it's not the way your business works for you isn't the same way my business works for me, isn't the same way someone else's business works for them, and it's not supposed to be. And again, there's like so much in the market where people are just like, this is the way I did it. Come and do it this way. This is the way that works. And well, that way works for you because you're you and not because it's the magic way, right? Like this is why so many people invest so much money too into a coaching program. And then they're like, I don't really like this. It doesn't really feel like me, but I guess I'll try it. And then you don't get any clients because it's not authentic. It's not what you would do. I have this great testimonial from a client the other day who was just like, I always leave my calls thinking her name is Denise. What would Denise do? And I was like, that's exactly the point. It's not what would Tracy do. It's not what would Brené Brown do. It's not what would Tony Robbins do. It's like, what would you do? We don't ask ourselves that question. We always think someone else has the answer. And the thing is that the best answer for you is inside you. So you need to get to that place where you feel really confident being able to make those decisions. This is where all these things come from. The confidence to make business decisions, all the things. I call it personal branding, but that's what it is to me, is my experience of myself and how I bring that unique experience to other people.
Yes, yes. And I really love the passion that transpires in everything that you say, Tracy. And I completely agree and also relates to what you say. Yes, if we don't have competitors, then we don't have a market. So let's embrace the fact that we have competitors and let's go our own. Let's also embrace our own unique way of doing things. And yeah, and I also agree with, we've got to get out of the formatting that we get at school, and also the formatting that we get when do it this way and it's going to work. Well, maybe for you, but if I'm not aligned with it, as you said, if I'm not authentic, it's going to transpire as well. And then I'm not going to get the same results just because it doesn't fit me. So it takes some trial and error, definitely, but our business is about expressing our uniqueness and our skills and our competencies and our values in this unique way. So yeah, I so agree. So tell us, Tracy, what kind of, do you work with women and men, only women? What kind of women are they, or what kind of industry are they in, and what brings them to you?
I love this question because I have a lot of unique perspectives on a lot of things. And one of them is target markets. And so I don't like demographic targeting. So I help men and women. I help people of different ages. I help people at different parts in their career journey. Really, the thing for me is about authenticity. So people come and work with me when they feel like they're not being authentic. So whether that's they're not being authentic in their corporate job, they're not being authentic in their social media posts, they're not showing up because they don't know how to be authentic, that's where people come to me. It's really based on a struggle with authenticity. And this is what I'm about. It's helping people to see, because a lot of people say this, and like maybe it's true, the word authenticity gets thrown around a lot. And what does it really mean? I actually saw, LinkedIn is kind of my place of choice where I hang out, my platform. And I saw a post there the other day, and this guy was just like, I have 2 daughters and a big house in Surrey, and I need to pay a big mortgage, and so I need you to buy my things. Is this what people mean by being authentic? And I was like, no, you missed something somewhere. Like, what being authentic means is that you do the things that you would do. That's why I love this question. What would you do? What would I do? If there were no rules about what I could do, what would I do? And so I have a friend right now who is dealing with exiting from a coach program because she feels like the coach doesn't care about the participants. And one of her biggest values is compassion. And she's like, I haven't shown up for like 2 months and nobody even like messaged me to find out if something is going on, right? Like they just don't care. And I saw this post on LinkedIn this morning about how a lot of times politicians are seen as somehow better than like waitresses because of what, right? Like, and I looked at it from the perception, I looked at that post and I was like, well, I know a lot more waitresses that care about my well-being than politicians. So this is very interesting for me, but that's because one of my personal values is compassion for humans and to treat humans in a human way. And so a lot of my clients are also people who believe that, right? They're people who are trying to create, they want to have an authenticity to them means being themselves, but also adding value to people, helping take care of people. And I just don't, people who don't care about taking care of people don't come and work with me because even if they tried, I would probably say no.
Okay, so I understand you don't like demographics as in, defining your target market in a demographic way. So you help men and women, and I think I understood that they don't have to be entrepreneurs, also the ones who are employed, but their common problem, their common issue is that they don't feel they are being authentic. Maybe they don't know what it means exactly to show up as authentically, and that's where they get in touch with you.
Yes.
So could you tell us a bit about, what's the transformation that they go through when they work with you?
Mm-hmm.
How do they work with you, for how long, and who are they on the other side?
Yes. So format-wise, I do one-on-one coaching. I am a personal brand coach. I believe that is one-on-one. You develop it one-on-one because everyone is unique. I also have a beautiful community of people called Your Business Peeps, which is more of the, like, I'm a very big believer in that you need to exist in the space where you are allowed, where you have given yourself permission to show up authentically, which means sometimes you show up in vulnerability or weakness with question. And this is what Your Business Peeps is about. It's about fostering that community. It's full of people who are like that, who are growing their personal brands, who are experiencing wins and losses on that front and sharing it and growing with each other. I am a very big believer that you need to be surrounded by other people who are doing that in order for you to give yourself the permission. Otherwise, you continue to get all of this rhetoric from the industry that's like, you should be this, you should be this, you should be this. Well, this is a community where there isn't that. It's, you should be you. And what does that look like? Maybe you don't know today, but we're all here to find out. We're all as invested in figuring it out as you are. I forgot the second part of your question. Oh, the transformation. The transformation. Yeah, so the transformation really is this personal confidence. I like to call it owning your space, right? So you are a unique person. Every single person on this planet has a unique contribution that they can make to society. If you want to make that contribution, you need to do it your way. So the two pieces of the transformation is first the confidence that your way can work, right? And until you believe that the way you are going to do a thing is the right way, you'll always be looking for answers from someone else to try and figure it out, because you need to transform to the point where you're like, I have the right answer for me. Maybe I'm not sure how to harness that today, but now I believe. So step one, believing that you are the answer to your problems and not someone else. And the second piece is harnessing. So I have lots of experience in marketing and sales, business growth. And what most people don't try and do is let's start with this way. What most people do try and do is get a checklist of things they need to do in a business to have a business. A lot of those things are like set up an LLC or like register your company and get a bank account. And like, these are all things, but none of those things have anything to do with you. Again, now this is just generic things. And yes, everybody has to do them, right? Like have a bank account. I'm not saying don't have a separate bank account for your business. It's a good best practice, right? But that's just a thing. And where the value shows up in your business is you being to take your knowledge about what your personal brand is and show up like that every day. And the way I show up is different than the way Madeline shows up and the way that everybody else shows up, right? We all have our unique way to show up. So what does that look like? For me, it's things like this. I love live Q&As. It's one of my favorite things. I try to do one every week, right? Or podcasts and things like that. I love that. I love to show up live. My entire business is based on me showing up live. That means I do free coaching opportunities and live trainings and all the things. And that's because I love it. It creates energy for me. It gives me, Madeline said, I'm clearly very passionate about this. It gives me an opportunity to talk about it, and talking about it is fun for me. But I actually had a really interesting conversation with one of the other ladies in your business piece last week, because she was like, well, I'm an introvert, and like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't show up like you do. And I was like, well, you shouldn't try to, because you're not me. Even if you were an extrovert trying to show up like me, it would be hard because you're not me. And so it's taking those innate abilities and skills that you have and using those, right? So if you're an introvert and you're known for creating calm, what are the scenarios where you do that? Is it one-on-one? Could you do that by going into someone else's group program and doing a bonus training? Like, there's just a million ways to create a business, and your business is a puzzle, and the puzzle pieces are dictated by you. And as soon as you try and throw in a puzzle piece that's dictated by someone else, it doesn't fit into the puzzle. So then you can't actually build the business that works for you, because it's got too many other pieces that are for someone else's puzzle. So it's about getting back to okay, these are the clarity of this is what is my puzzle pieces. And now how can I put these together into a puzzle that makes sense for me? And at the end of the day, you get a business where it's fun to show up. And like, the side benefit is that you get to make money doing what you like, and you can spend less time doing that, because you're actually spending the time that you do spend is spent doing the things that you love. And so the likelihood of you showing up and giving your all to the things that you love is super high. It just is. I don't know why not everybody does it, to be honest with you. It just makes the most sense in the world to me. But that's what it's about. The transformation is creating a business of yours. Not that you can't learn from other people, right? Like, learn from other people. But if you learn something and you don't like it, then don't do it. Or if you try it and it doesn't work for you, stop and try something else. And that's what, again, a coach can help lead you through that transition of like, oh, but I tried this and I really should be able to just write this email funnel. What if you don't need an email funnel? Which you don't, by the way. Side note, you don't have to have an email funnel to have a successful business. You know how many businesses were successful businesses before there was email and before there was Facebook groups and before all these things, right? Like, you don't have to have any of these things, but you do have to have something where you can show up authentically and share with people about what you do. That's all marketing is sharing what it is you do, sharing the solution to a problem that you have, being able to connect with people who have that problem, and then tell them that you have a solution for them. Not getting attached to the outcome, because all I'm doing is making an invite, right? Like, I'm inviting you to check this out. And if it doesn't feel right for you, I don't want you to do it, because it's probably going to feel bad for me as your coach too, right? Like, this is the point. And all of that confidence and self-assuredness in a confident, not cocky way comes from owning your personal brand.
Yes, that's great. Well, I completely agree with everything you said. And I think you are privileged to do that and to accompany the people that way. And I feel privileged as well to accompany the entrepreneurs, the starting entrepreneurs, because together we don't just open an LLC or not and open a bank account, but we get to define their business the way they want it, and not the same as somebody else, but the way they want it, and define it exactly. But also with regards to marketing, as you said, I'm not advising them to have an email funnel or a sales page or this or that. I'm exploring with them what will work for them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, completely agree again with what you said. So next question: what tips could you give a starting entrepreneur to, for instance, to show up authentically and to show up in her business?
I recently read the book, The One Thing, and I would highly recommend it to any entrepreneur. There is a central question that the book is focused on, and the question is, what is the one thing I can do today so that all other things become easier or unnecessary? And it's actually interesting for me. So I read the book earlier this year, and I was going through this strategic intensive with a coach. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm more of a go with the flow, feel it kind of person. And I'm like, I need a strategic plan, because that's what people have in successful businesses, strategic plans. So I did this workshop, and I came out with all of these tasks that I quote unquote should do. And then I was like, this doesn't feel good for me. It just doesn't feel like me. So I'm just going to I'll just put that over here, and I'm going to take a week, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to show up the way I want to show up in my business. I took a list of probably 100 tasks and narrowed it down to 3 things that I really needed to do. So that's substantial, and it's not a joke, right? These are just things that we think we should do, right? I need to have an email funnel, and therefore if I'm going to have an email funnel, I need to have a freebie, and my freebie has to be a PDF, and then I have to have a topic for a PDF, and then I have to have an automated follow-up sequence, and then I don't have any of those things. So I have a freebie. My freebie is a live webinar, because I like to show up live, and I have a panel of guests because I like to talk to other people, right? That is what works for me, and it's not what everybody else is doing, and that is fine. That's normal. I would love for that to be more normal for people than just we'd have to do all the things. So my number one tip is that you don't have to do all of the things. You have to do a very small amount of things. You don't need to be on every platform. You can be on one single platform. You could be on just Facebook, just Instagram, just LinkedIn, just Clubhouse, right? Pick the one you like. Pick the one you have the most fun doing. That's an important part of your business, is for you to choose things that you have fun doing. And if you don't have fun doing it, how much more... I was telling Madeline, I run a mastermind, and it was right before this. And one of the ladies was saying that she recently has transitioned to LinkedIn. And she was like, oh, I showed up on LinkedIn for a week and got a client. I'm like, what if I showed up there on purpose for 20 minutes a day? How many clients could I get then? I'm showing up there all ad hoc, right? Pick a thing you like to do and just do that, right? That is the way to show up as your best self. And the way that you can best sell your services is when you're showing up as your best self. Side note, don't show up to sell your services ever. Show up to help people. If you just show up to help people, you'll be fine. We're soulpreneurs here, right? I'm sure everybody who's watching this is out to help people, right? Don't ever think about selling. You never have to think about selling once. You do have to make invitations. You have to invite people to come and work with you if they want to have their problem solved. And I would encourage you not to think of that as sales, but to think of it as, I'm helping. This is my opportunity to help somebody. This is what my help looks like. And if they need it, I made an offer to somebody in a direct message yesterday. To be fair, I have a relationship with this person. We've been conversing for 6 months probably. I was like, oh my gosh, I have this strategy call. This would be perfect for what you're experiencing right now. And she just bought it, right? Like, that's what it's supposed to be. It's about building relationships with people based on who you are, not trying to be something else, and then invite them into your story and invite them to get the help they need. And just do one thing. What's the one thing? What's the one thing? This is one of the deep things that I work through. So people might not be able to answer this today. But I like to work with my clients around what they stand for. Like, what is your stand you're taking for society? One of the things that I'm very passionate about is more people feeling like they have a voice. I want people to know that their voice, exactly as it comes out of their body, has value to society, and they should use it. This is what I do every day. And so I get to show up and be like, okay, I'm going to do this live. What can I do? How can I show up in that environment to give more people a voice, to inspire them to show up today? And like, how can I do that with a social media post? How can I do that with the live training I'm doing later? How can I do that with my mastermind group? How can I do that with my clients, right? Like, how can I do that in a quote unquote sales call, right? How can I do that? If I just show up to do that every day, you get to the end of the day and you get to say, I made a difference in what I'm here to do today. And that's if any of you have a corporate background, you'll know that we measure a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, right? That's what matters. KPIs, so many KPIs that are not actually key performance indicators. I like to share this with people because my key performance indicator for my business is how many smiles did I get today. And people think that it's funny, but when I show up and people, so here's the thing, right? I talk to a lot of people who are feeling very insecure in their brands. They don't know how to show up authentically. And I know that I can have a 20-minute conversation with them and they can feel totally different about themselves and excited. Maybe not confident yet, but excited that there's a potential for something they didn't see. That I can't imagine doing something better with my 20 minutes than that. I can't honestly think of anything else that would be better than that. So could I measure how many quote unquote sales calls or how many new connections I make? Sure, I could. All of those things are countable, right? But do they really count? Let's focus on the things that count.
Yeah. Wow. That was such a fascinating and passionate conversation, and I can't thank you enough, Tracy, for having done that interview with me today. I really loved it, and I'm sure that everybody who's gonna watch that is gonna love it as well. So we're gonna have to stop, but I am going to put in the comments the links so that people can find you, I think LinkedIn and Facebook and wherever you are, and so that people can connect with you and maybe watch that webinar that you were talking about, and yeah, just get in touch with you and enjoy your passion even more. So yeah, just want to thank you very much, Tracy, for doing that with me.
Yes, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, we're gonna stay out. Okay, well, thank you everybody for watching, and have a nice weekend, and see you soon.